Awards.
Thanks so much. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I first must start off with some thank yous. I want to thank Humphrey, I can't see him, and I want to thank Anna. I'll embarrass Anna with a story. I just joined Debra about 9 years ago. I don't have EB, my family doesn't have EB, and I was sitting either having a beer or a cup of tea with Anna, and she just met me and she just said to me, well, one day I will invite you to my country, and if you came, I'd like to show you hospitality. And I said, hold on, Anna, you do realise, I don't have EB, we've only just met. And Anna said, no, Ben, you're now part of the Debra family. So I was very moved by that, and I'm very grateful that she hasn't instigated any divorce proceedings over the last 8 or 10 years as she's got to know me. I just want to give a bit of background. The second thank you is to my colleagues from Debra Uk. I'm searching around, but you heard yesterday from Tarek, from Lynn, from Rosie, from Rachel. You heard from Jane and Caroline. So I'm not going to talk about all of that sort of work that happens in the 4 centres of clinical excellence in the UK around nursing, podiatry, nutrition. But what I'd say is Debra Uk is the sort of the top-up mechanism. Every time I come to an international meeting, I am still astounded to hear that countries hugely struggle to even pay for the cost of dressings, care, the NHS. We love to whinge about the NHS in the UK, but compared to other countries, we're blessed with the level of provision of care for EB. I'm also not going to talk about the team that we have in the UK for community support. So I have a team of half a dozen people who are employed, dedicated to being in contact with the EB community in the UK. It's about 5,000 people with EB in the UK. On our membership, we have about 2,000. And I don't know if you remember, there was an event about 10 years ago called the Global Credit Crisis. Doesn't sound like it affected China or Russia, but in the UK, we've got a lot of debt. And so the government has been cutting back on an expenditure, and we therefore thought it was important to start employing our own members of staff to help people with EB in the UK just to claim disability benefits. It means the financial payments from a government that allow people in the EB community to eat and live and have a roof over their head. So even though we view ourselves as a very civilised country, we've had to invest in people to actually fight to get to what we think is a reasonable standard of living. So what am I going to talk about? Well, I'm going to talk a bit about research. I'm not going to go into all of the projects we do, but I want to give you a flavour for how we make decisions for research. And I want to finish off talking about Debra International and what we're planning to do to support International, because our perspective in the UK is, yes, we did vote for Brexit. No, I wasn't in the country when the vote happened, but we voted for Brexit. But EB is a global challenge, and it is through collaboration and through teamwork that we will achieve more. Just to give you a quick flavour of what Debra Uk is now, we've doubled in size over the last sort of 10 years. I now have close to 400 people who are employed, who I pay to do a job across mainly from about 130 charity shops, but I have a dedicated team for fundraising as well. I've got about 1,000 volunteers, predominantly across those shops, who are giving 4 or 5 hours of their time each week. That makes a big difference. I have a wage bill each year of about £5 million. So we are a charity. We've become a medium-sized charity, not a small one, but we're also a business. We're an organisation with all of the controls that need to be in place to manage it. So what does all that add up to? Well, this year we're able to spend about £2.5 million to help the EB community, and our plan over the next 3 years is to grow to about £3.5 million. What do we need to develop? I'll give you a clue. Actually, in UK, we are not good at asking people for money. We're not good at that. We take them on golf days, we have gala dinners, they buy things from our shops, but asking for money. Give me £1, give me $1, give me £10,000. And we have a campaign called #FightEB, just type it in on the internet, and you'll see how we're trying to have a digital online campaign to raise money, a more efficient way. To raise money, asking for cash, I think you need to have projects. Give us money, and this is what we'll achieve. Okay, so there's my first slide. I remain convinced that EB care and research is worldwide. It is a global challenge. As an organisation that's been going for 39 years, next year is our 40th anniversary, we see it as our responsibility to help out where we can with knowledge and experience that we've gained. Who knows who our founder was? Any hands up? We've got one over there. Yes, you would know. And Robin Easy? No. I'll talk about him a bit later. Anyone? Phyllis Hilton. I had the privilege of meeting Phyllis shortly having joined Debra. She was quite an extraordinary lady. I'll tell a few bits of her story. She had a daughter called Debra. I'll come back to it in a moment. When her daughter was 15 years old, there was a knock on her front door. There was a mother there who said, I have a child who has something similar to what your child has. The hospital has told me to come and see you. And Phyllis Hilton had this moment of nothing has changed for 15 years. Absolutely nothing had changed. So she became determined to do something about that. And she set up a group of people. Of course, we're called Debra because her daughter was Debra. Well, maybe not. Because Phyllis Hilton told me the founders were sitting around a kitchen table, having a cup of tea, sharing stories and experiences. And somebody said, why don't we call ourselves Dystrophic EB Research Association, DEBRA. And somebody else said, well, that's the name of your daughter. And somebody else has told me that, no, Ben, this was all to do with fundraising, defeat EB, raise awareness. So choose the name that works. If you're talking to someone who's to give you money, go for raise awareness. But she was quite an extraordinary lady. I'm not going to go through these projects. As an indication of the projects we're funding in the UK for 2017. It comes to about £2 million. There's the picture of what we're funding globally. And there's a message there for all of us. We should fund the best research wherever it is, full stop. That's just for 1 year. We've funded projects in Chile, we've funded projects in Italy, and we've funded projects in Germany and lots of other countries. But you'll see when I talk through how we actually assess projects, it doesn't matter where it is. It's where the best research is where the money should go. I just want to make this reflection on the acceleration of EB research. We know about Debra Uk, as Debra Austria have heard. There's a lot of funding from the USA. It's a shame that the two primary organisations aren't here today. In the UK, parents set up an organisation called the Sahana Research Fund. That's raised over £2 million. But I really, if I can get this highlight, is this the, which button do I push to get the button? The big green one. No, that's going to give me the next slide. The pointer. I'm not going to take the risk. It's at the bottom, pharmaceutical and biotech companies. I once estimated that between us in this room with all the Debras, we're spending about €5 million a year on research. It is growing. Maybe over the next few years, we can get to €10 million. But these are, for an organisation our size, these are very, very significant sums. It's extraordinary for the condition. But then you look to see what pharmaceutical companies could do. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're nearly all American-based. That is the place where biotechs, farmers raise money. The one exception we're aware of, and I'm very proud of, is Merrett Pharmaceutical. They're here today, and they raised about £14 million on the London markets. But just that proportionality, and so our connection with these biotechs and pharmaceutical companies is very, very important. Before we undertook our last round for research, we thought we'd go to our community and ask them what is important to you. And actually, the responses were surprising. And it was the top three there in terms of wound care methods, reducing itch, reducing pain. When we asked people with EB, what do they actually want? That is what they came back and told us. And so we set up a meeting in London. We paid for all of these people to go to London. We tried to identify the best individuals in the world in terms of wound healing. There's a picture of them all there. I was busy working on opening some shops, so I didn't go along. And it led to a grant round in 2017, where we started off, I think it was about 30 applications came in worldwide for wound healing projects. They totaled about €6 million. I didn't have a heart attack. I only had 1 million in the bank, but every time we do these reviews, when you go through professional peer review, there's a real scaling back in terms of what the researchers themselves feel that we should be funding. The organisation of this was done in partnership with Debra Austria and the UK, and we came down to 3 projects. I'm only going to mention one of them, and it links in with all we heard yesterday about cannabinoids. Help me on, Ms. Dady, how do I pronounce it? Cannabinoids, thank you very much, which is a derivative of cannabis, and we're looking to fund a multi-centre trial to actually have some real scientific analysis of whether that particular plant can reduce pain for people with EB. What about pruritus, itch? And we've seen lots of presentations talking about mesenchymal stem cells or stromal cells. In the UK, with Guy's and St Thomas's and Great Ormond Street, we've run a number of projects with infusions. So easy to give infusions of mesenchymal stromal cells. And, the story is up there on the screen. We did see improvement. I guess the challenge is, if you look at the last point there, you become dependent in these studies on people's assessment. So we were told that 90% of the children who had been on this trial reported better wound healing, less redness, better sleep, improved family life, and this message came over: more energy for life. That's kind of difficult compared to what the FDA are going to want to hear about clinical trials. Nevertheless, we think it has made a difference, and we're funding another project called PruStem to help with particular patients who have extreme itch. It's going to run over 3 years, and it's a series and infusion of mesenchymal stromal cells to try to improve this itch that members of the community tell us is pretty horrendous. Skin grafts. I have to say, we have been following the progress in Stanford that's been reported on, where you've got 21 out of 24 wounds improving. There's a very big project that's got European funding called Genocraft in Paris with Alan Hofnanian. We're working with him to hopefully have patients coming from around Europe on that. It's taken a long time to get the regulator to actually get that project going. But it just strikes us that the skin grafts, which we weren't aware of until quite recently, can make quite a difference. I think we all heard the worldwide news about the boy in Germany who had the extraordinary skin graft. It is rightly described as one, but it's made a dramatic impact to him. And this work by Michel De Luca actually goes back almost a decade. So he previously did a clinical trial with one patient where the skin on a man's leg would junctionally has been firm and strong for about a decade. So we think that breakthrough, as well as raising awareness, I think it will have an impact on regulators because it was such a dramatic change. I think it will also have an impact as time goes on. What is the future? Well, in the UK, what we think is there will be a number of treatments developing over the forthcoming years that can help in particular ways. We can't identify something at the moment that could be described as a complete cure that treats the whole body holistically, but we're seeing whether it's infusions, injections, or skin grafting, we're seeing a development of these treatments that hopefully over the next few years will lead to people with EB having more relief than we can give at the moment. I want to talk about the rigosertib project. Of course, like all of you, we have patients who develop the squamous cell carcinomas. From an experiment that was done in Scotland, we saw in a mouse model that using a drug called rigosertib appeared to slow down the spread of squamous cell carcinomas. In a mouse model, we're funding a project that's going to cost about £400,000 with Dr. Andy South. And again, we want that trial not just to be in the UK, we want it to be in multiple countries, in Austria, America, and the UK. And it's going to take 60 months for that project to come to completion. It took us 18 months of organisation just to get this happening. And this is with an existing drug. Rigosertib it's not on the market, but it's in the latter stages of clinical trials elsewhere. So lots of challenges there to get through the what I would call would be bureaucracy and necessary regulatory approval to actually make these trials real. Okay, my last slide. We do believe in Debra International. We think it is fundamentally important to all of us here today. We're going to be spending about £200,000 a year to support Debra International. We already help with staffing. We're going to be funding the research conference in Clanet in London in 2019. But we're also asking other countries, and I hope it's going to be talked about at the AGM, for some matched funding. You know, if we give some money, can other countries give some money for a common cause, for a common project that we think is important? We think developing a website is very important. We're going to be funding a couple of clinical best practice papers each year for the 3 years. And many people in the room will have heard the name of Robin Eady. We're looking to give £30,000 over 3 years to respect that researcher in terms of what he achieved and to fund a clinical fellow. I want to finish off talking about the registry. I mean, we keep on hearing how important this registry is. It's going to be the basis for more clinical trials. We're committing some of money that we're hoping to be matched. Where's Jimmy from Debra Ireland? Jimmy's committed to give €20,000 to that project. We're going to give €20,000. And Cinzia from Debra Italy is committing to give 5,000. So that gets us to about €45,000. We're now going to be asking Italy and Ireland if they will please fund not 1 year, but 3 years, because we'll match that as well. That will get us to about €135,000 for Debra International, to give them some money to get this project going worldwide. The development of that registry is important. You look at other conditions like cystic fibrosis, they really make lots of noise about the importance of getting this data onto online and available. So I'd like to finish with a final thank you for today.